Hi, Dan Chan here. The first part of this video, I'd like to talk about camcorders versus digital cameras for shooting video. I like camcorders for this purpose, and that will become obvious. And of course, it's my own subjective opinion. The fact is that many video pros and advanced amateur shooters are using digital cameras to shoot video. And this is fine by me. You either like one or the other, and I'm not trying to convince anyone otherwise. I just want to make the point that camcorders will always have their place, are not obsolete, and the reasons why this is true. For the main part of this video, I'd like to share with you some photography tips and techniques that over the years have worked well for me. Some I've come up with on my own, but most of what I've learned has come from other photographers. So if you glean even one useful bit that you didn't know before, I'll have paid some of that forward. These days, I shoot video exclusively, and to do that, I use camcorders. This video was shot with 3 different camcorders, and the corner of each clip displays the model that was used to film it. This way you can compare the images from each model, but primarily I want to illustrate that camcorders are also capable of producing the shallow depth of field that's inherent in fast digital camera lenses. The popularity of shooting video with still cameras is now deeply entrenched, and you'll see them being used by pros and novices alike. The camera industry perpetuates the trend because still cameras outsell camcorders hands down. Modern digital cameras are dual-purpose machines, shooting both stills and video. But the fact is, DSLRs and mirrorless cameras are designed first and foremost to shoot photos, and secondly, video. Their large sensors and wide choice of fast interchangeable lenses are appealing, but for video, that's where the advantage ends. The overall equipment cost is more because there are more components to piece together. These outfits are heavier, bulkier, and more unwieldy than video cameras. So what's the deal here? The deal is bokeh, the Japanese word for blur. That beautifully blurred background and out-of-focus highlights that separates your subject from the background in a spectacular way. The contrast between out-focused background and sharply focused subject gives the illusion that the subject is even more sharply defined. It's a wonderful and cinematic effect that's inherent in the shallow depth of field of fast interchangeable still camera lenses. A camcorder on auto is not going to give you bokeh as effortlessly, but it can be achieved using this formula: telephoto lens, wide aperture, subject close to camera, and far away background. And there are other techniques to get good background separation besides bokeh. Here's one. Backlight your subject with the sun and use a reflector to bounce light back into their face. Try to position them in front of a dark background to enhance the effect. You can see the back of the mannequin is brightly lit from behind, and the green ribbon is glowing as would a person's hair when backlit. And its face is evenly lit by the bounced sunlight. The technique puts a rim of light on the person's hair and shoulders, separating them from the background while their front is lit with a soft fill light from the reflector. So that's my take on the DSLR mirrorless cameras for video phenomenon. And I'm not sure if I should even include DSLRs anymore either. Their sales are way down, and we're seeing discontinued models that aren't being refreshed. The new technology is focused on their successors, mirrorless cameras and smartphones. Just as digital cameras ended the reign of film and DSLRs propelled the demise of camcorders, mirrorless cameras keep evolving into better and better machines, both in their still and video capabilities. But despite their greatness, there are some things they just can't do as well as a camcorder. And I don't think they ever will unless we see a radical change in their form factor. Will the massive 200 to 500 zoom lens I'm mounting on my Z6 give me more of that beloved shallow depth of field? Yes, it will. Is it possible I could miss the shot while I'm digging it out of the bag? Yes to that too. And am I willing to carry something that size and weight around with me is also a question. Camcorders are video machines, all-in-one packages specifically designed to efficiently produce high-quality video. Look at how you hold a camcorder. The shape and ergonomic designs facilitates handheld continuous video. My thumb's on the record button and my index finger's on the motorized zoom rocker. Try that with a still camera. Still cameras don't have servo zooms, and many don't have articulating screens. The camcorder's long and narrow design accommodates easily cradling it out in front, and their built-in lenses have a huge range. The single integrated lens on the AX53 optically zooms from 26mm wide angle to 536mm super telephoto. Digital cameras have limited recording times. Camcorders do not. However, the overheating issues associated with digital camera 4K recording times have largely been solved in the new mirrorless technology. Most prosumer camcorders also have built-in ND filters. Still cameras have filter threads to screw one on. In video, good audio is every bit as important as the image, and DSLR and mirrorless cameras have terrible mics and noisy preamps. You absolutely have to add an external mic to get acceptable audio with a digital camera. Built-in camcorders audio runs from acceptable to very good. Now, it's obvious that I have a camcorder bias, but don't get me wrong, I love photography and still cameras, and I used them my whole career, but to shoot photos, not video. And in the final analysis, it's really a moot point. Hybrid mirrorless cameras for video will continue to outpace camcorders in features, technology, and popularity. It's undeniable that mirrorless is the future and camcorders are fading into the background. But for dedicated video, they won't go away. For shooters like me who want an all-in-one dedicated video camera that can easily be carried to remote locations without a backpack full of lenses, a camcorder's ergonomics, ease of use, and form factor are the fundamental differences that will keep me using them. I own a small collection of consumer and pro-consumer camcorders. For multi-camera shoots, I'll use 2 and sometimes even 3 simultaneously recording different camera angles. When I'm in the field, the recording conditions dictate which one I'll take along, and I'll use a specific camera for situations that best play to that camera's strong points. The Sony AX700 is an all-around great 4K camcorder with its 1-inch sensor and fast hybrid autofocusing system. The 3.5-inch LCD screen and the OLED viewfinder are a pleasure to use, and I get very sharp 4K images from its Bionz processor and Zeiss lens. HDR and S-Log picture profiles, built-in ND filters, and full manual control. I use this camera for low-light shooting and time-lapse as well as slow motion. There is something undeniably awesome about seeing time sped up or slowed down, where hours become seconds and seconds slow down to be analyzed in fine detail. I think we all take time shifting in movies for granted these days, but it really is magic and sorcery to behold what the eye cannot see normally. The camera shoots 420 frames per second super slow motion internally, and the effect is pretty amazing. It is even capable of shooting short bursts of time suspending 960 frames per second. I would never have seen that defiant little nip at the end in real time. The Panasonic HC-X2000 is currently the smallest and lightest 4K 60p camcorder. Very high image quality and good light. Its strong points are the incredible reach of its fast 1.8 24 times Leica zoom lens with a fantastic optical zoom range of 25mm clear to 600mm. 4K at 60 frames per second capability, and the professional 2-channel audio controls. Venus processor, 422 10-bit up to 200 megabits per second internal recording, Direct Connect HD live streaming, and SDI out. The lens is great for wildlife photography, and the 60 frames per second in 4K allows for fast camera or subject movements with minimum motion blur. It also has a 4-hour battery, and the included handle has a video light, which can help out the small sensor in low light. Now the Sony AX53 is my minimal equipment carry camera. Its small size and weight, and most importantly, 5-axis boss stabilization, make it my handheld favorite. All of these cameras have their strong and weak points, and each contains some sort of compromise. Of course, there are professional camcorders that are not feature compromised in any way, but I'm not shooting professionally, and I don't require broadcast quality. And for my purposes, the size and weight of pro cameras make them impractical. There's an old photographer saying that goes like this: when asked which is the best camera, the answer is the one that you have with you. Great shots will never be made on a camera you left at home. For years now, well before phone cameras, whenever I go out, I try to always have a camera with me, and have never regretted the inconvenience of carrying one. In fact, if you're carrying a camera, you're compelled to use it, and you'll be looking at the world photographically. You'll come up with interesting footage you hadn't even thought about being out there. What size pipe should we buy? That's a pipe fitting big enough to stick your head in. How much is it?
$202.
$202 for one pipe fitting? But I guess it's a giant L, huh? Giant elbow.
And it's heavy.
Look like you're a periscope head. A large, well-organized library of B-roll is my goal, and I've shot some of my most interesting background roll in unlikely places. If you're editing video, you're going to need visuals to fill in the blanks. And having this wide and varied catalog of B-roll subjects means all you have to do is drag it in without having to go out and shoot it. When I'm out doing photography, my head's in a different space than it would be if I was there without a camera. I'm more observant, and I'm looking at my surroundings as photo opportunities. When I'm attracted to a subject, I'll ask myself, why do I want to record this? What will I do with it? And what do I want it to say? Meaning the message it conveys. If you think in this way before you pull out your camera to just document the event, it changes your perspective, and you'll come away with better and more meaningful footage. So what I'm ultimately saying is a little forethought and planning go a really long way. And I think the larger question is, why am I going to all this effort in the first place, instead of just enjoying this place like everyone else? For me, shooting video is enjoyment. I'm making art. I'm expressing myself artistically, first for my own personal fulfillment, and secondly to share with others. Video employs the same compositional concepts as art and still photography. Light and shadow, contrasting elements, leading lines, the rule of thirds, diagonal composition, triangular composition, point and counterpoint, and foreground interest. They're called rules of composition, but I like to call them principles because rules can sometimes be broken with refreshing results. But these classic tenets of composition have endured through time for a reason. By and large, all humans define visual beauty, symmetry, and balance in the same way. The human eye, and therefore thinking and emotions, can be directed, manipulated if you will, by the use of concepts such as the rule of thirds, the golden triangle, and the golden spiral. So in framing your video shot, all the elements of classic composition apply. The difference is that video has an added element, motion. In fact, video is all about movement and motion. If you're shooting a static subject with a static camera, you might as well be taking a still photo. Either the subject must be moving, or the camera needs to be moving in some small way. And I do mean small, smooth, and stable way. So here's a California beach scene that would stand alone as an establishing shot to give location. The camera is locked down with plenty of motion in the waves. Humans possess the eyes of a hunter, highly evolved to detect even the slightest motion, especially in our peripheral vision. As soon as another moving element is added, your eye is immediately drawn to the guy walking. I changed location and found some colorful ice plant, and I set up my slider. By camera movement and pulling focus, I'm going to try to draw your attention first to the ice plant and then to drift over to the ocean and finally down to the beach walkers. 3 subjects in one shot. Shoot for the edit. Most clips are short and will last 3 to 5 seconds before they transition into another clip. So unless your subject is doing something that takes longer, be thinking about how long your camera moves are taking when you pan, tilt, truck, or dolly. If there's time, I'll practice the camera movement first. This way, I can establish an in and out point before executing, and I'll know exactly how to move after hitting the record button. When editors cut from one clip to the next, they need footage with lead time and end time. So that's a period of inaction before the start of the action and a period of inaction afterwards. Kind of a held pose before and after, so there's room to work in the next segment. Once you start editing video, you'll realize how hard it is to cut video together when the camera operator didn't shoot for the edit. My goal is to make every shot smooth and stable. Handheld shooting has the advantage of quickly getting the shot before the action is missed. Many situations occur spontaneously, and you will absolutely miss the shot if you spend too much time setting up. Going handheld, you can change position and camera angle rapidly to recompose. For example, if your subject's in front of a busy background, just move a few steps to the side or squat down and the problem's fixed. But if I have the time, I'll lock the camera down on a tripod. I like static establishing shots for an opening scene. And tripods are pretty much mandatory for zoomed-in telephotos. I bought this little tabletop tripod 45 years ago, and it's still in use. The ball head quickly attaches to the camera, and I'd say it's about as minimal in size and weight as camera supports come. I set it on the ground for low angles, or higher on flat elevated surfaces. Now if a camera support is impractical, I'll brace on anything that doesn't move. A wall, or a tree, a post, or any solid object found in the environment. There are also tricks to know how to hold a camera steady on your body. I'll even hold my breath during the shot. Here's a technique to give you smoother tripod pans. By attaching rubber bands to the handle, the bands become a stretchy buffer between your hand and the handle, giving a more even and consistent pressure. With a good variable drag video head and lots of practice, attaining smooth and jitter-free pans becomes easier. Communication skills. As with art and writing, creative storytelling with video is a talent, and there are many elements needed to create compelling movies. But even at the most basic level, your video will suffer if it's just a collection of B-roll with music. You're going to need people, and dialogue, and human interaction. And this is where your skills as a conversationalist and interviewer and director come into play. Your powers of persuasion and your understanding of human psychology are key to getting people to open up in front of your camera. Now, some people are perfectly comfortable speaking on camera, but many aren't. and you find out which type they are right away as you approach a stranger with your camera. In these situations, it's human nature for people to be a little suspicious, so this will test your skills in reassuring them that you're an okay person to talk to. Now, I really can't tell you how to have a disarming personality, but now it's time to be engaging. Use some charm, because you're going to have to sell the idea. Explain what you're doing and ask if they wouldn't mind saying a few words about whatever subject matter it is. If they say no, thank them and disengage immediately. If they accept, great. The interview is on. You want them to have a dialogue with you and not the camera. And if you have good people skills, they'll actually forget about the camera. Be polite and friendly. That goes without saying. A good conversationalist is one who listens more than they talk. And for the interview to be usable, you want them and not you to be doing the talking. So Hawk, you have 3 groups here, right? A, B, and C as far as their skill levels go?
Yeah.
You've had the morning to get everybody acquainted with the bikes, get the basics down for the beginning group at least, and the other ones have had more work. So what lies ahead for the afternoon part of this course?
We are going to take the A group, which is the most advanced guys, and they've pretty much gone through the most important parts and basics of body position is really it, your 4 points of contact, and we've done drills based around body position.
And body position is very important,
huge.
right?
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, your body position, because on 2 wheels, any input you put into the 4 points.
Here are some techniques for getting usable sound bites. Plan your questions and remarks and word them so that they're open-ended. You want them to speak their phrase without input from you. For example, a subjective open-ended question might be, what is your opinion on XYZ? Now this can't be answered with a simple yes or no and requires longer and more detailed response. And that's exactly what you're after. Ask a question and allow them to answer however they like. Let them know you're listening with head nods or interjecting little comments of approval, but don't be fake or patronizing. If they stop talking, don't be so quick to fill the silence. Give them a little head nod and remain silent. And this uncomfortable silence will prompt them to continue on. If they start to stray from the subject, redirect and get them back on track with another pertinent question. But remember your goal. In the edited video, you want them doing the talking and explaining and as little of you as possible. Ideally, none of you. Pay attention to how they begin the answer to your question. Can it stand alone without including your question? In normal conversation, a question is asked and an answer is given, but this isn't normal conversation. For example, if you ask, how many visitors a day do you get touring the building? They might answer, around 50 to 100 on weekdays, but the weekends are much busier. Now there's no way that you can use this answer without including your question. You want to ask your question in such a way so that their answer will include a paraphrased question as well as the answer. Try to frame your question in a more open-ended way, such as, this place seems popular. You must get a lot of people touring the facility. And with any luck, they'll respond, this is a popular place, and we get around 50 to 100 visitors on weekdays, but bigger groups on weekends. Now that's a perfect soundbite. Another good way to get good interview results is to research the subject matter and have some knowledge of what they'll be talking about. The interviewer can name drop a few key words in their question and prompt exactly the response needed for the soundbite. You can use other interviewer tools as well. I've even been coy and purposely gotten a fact wrong only to be corrected with the exact detail I was hoping that they would come up with. So where we're headed today.
He's ready for
He never was good at PIO.
Oh, okay.
When the media showed up, he would just run and hide.
I bet you are, though.
No, I'm not that good either.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, just give us our route. I mean, where
Okay,
are we headed today?
we're going to go to Ramsburg.
Ramsburg.
Yes, old mining town.
Okay.
Okay, and then from there, there's places to buy some trinkets and books.
Even if you're not doing anything as personal as an interview, understanding human nature can be a big asset in getting your shot. For example, I was shooting video in this quaint little church in Bodega Bay, and I saw a woman and her kid approaching into my shot. So to add human interest to the architecture, I wanted them to walk into the frame. Now in a crowd situation, people commonly give photographers no respect, and they'll block your view without a thought. But this was different, as we were the only ones there. And in past situations, I've had considerate people stop and wait for me, or walk around behind the camera. My thought was to make this a reveal shot, so I made sure she saw me pointing the camera up at the steeple. Seeing that they wouldn't disturb me as they walked down the walkway, they continued towards me, and I timed my tilt down from the steeple just as they walked into frame, and I got the shot that I had imagined. And if you want to be the intrepid photographer who can nail down shots like this Alaskan downpour, I give you the umbrella hat. Hands-free operation for your camera, and you and your equipment stay completely dry. Seller not responsible for lightning strikes. Video camera sold separately. Well, I hope this video has been helpful and maybe you've learned something new. So until next time, so long and thanks for watching. And please subscribe.